Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's BooLin Sports here, bringing you another YouTube video. Today I'll be doing my top 5 trade up, trade down, and potential trade out candidates for this upcoming 2020 NFL Draft for the first round. So with this, we're just going to be looking at teams that I could see either trading up, trading down, or trading out of the draft, which is upcoming in 2 weeks. And the only problem I see with this is I don't see a lot of teams making a lot of trades just because of everything being on Zoom and fear of the recordings getting hacked, even though there's that insured safety. So I feel like a lot of teams won't be able to swing the trades like they planned. But without further ado, it's BooLin Sports, and we're going to bring to you our top 5 trade-up candidates. So our first trade-up candidate is the Miami Dolphins, obviously. They need to get a quarterback for the future. They tried trading for Josh Rosen last year, and that experiment didn't pay off, and it ended up being the Ryan Fitzpatrick show. And you were able to bring Fitzpatrick back for one more year, but I feel like they need to get a rookie in place for at least 10 to 15 years down the road, whether it be a guy like Tua Tagovailoa or, as of recent, a lot of hype has been surrounding Justin Herbert. And I'm feeling more or less if they trade up, they're going to take Tagovailoa, but if they stay at number 5, they're going to stick with Justin Herbert just because a lot of teams don't seem to be too high on him. Plus, they have a plethora of picks, including 3 in the first round. Therefore, I would not be surprised if they swung a trade with either the Detroit Lions or the New York Giants just to leapfrog and ensure that spot with a team like the Chargers or possibly the Saints, who I have later on down the road. Or they could even move up to that number 1 spot with the rumors swirling around and take Joe Burrow if they were able to give up enough draft capital. My number 2 trade-up candidate might come as a surprise, but I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving up and adding protection for Tom Brady for the next 2 years. They went out and made a plethora of moves, bringing back Shaquille Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, so that is still a very good defense. That secondary finally grew into its own, but they do need a right tackle, and they haven't brought back DeMar Dotson whatsoever, and I haven't heard discussions about that, so I think they trade up to like the 7 through 12 range and get one of those early game tackles that will be a day 1 starter to protect their new quarterback in Brady. My third candidate is the Philadelphia Eagles. They did swing a trade with the Lions earlier, losing a 3rd and a 5th, but to get an elite corner like that, they fixed their leaky secondary, and now what they need to fix is their passing game. Having only Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, and Alshon, and we don't know how much longer Alshon will be in Philadelphia, so they need to get another reliable pass catcher. Deshaun Jackson's just getting up there in age, and I could see them trading up and getting a guy like Henry Ruggs or Jerry Jeudy, because where they stand, I think at either 19 or 21, they're looking at a guy like Justin Jefferson or possibly T. Higgins, Lavish Shenault. So not bad players, but none of those elite game changers. My number 4 candidate is the New Orleans Saints. This is another surprise, but I think I could see it happening just because a few years ago they did give up a lot of draft capital to move up and get Marcus Davenport, and in year 1 that didn't look like it paid out, but as of recent he's been one of those players that you saw that talent from coming from a small school. So I think they could trade up here and either get a playmaker, even though they did bring in Emmanuel Sanders, so that's not as likely, but I think they need a plan for the future now, and they did bring back Taysom Hill. But do you want him to be your future behind Drew Brees, or do you want to look for a rookie, possibly a Herbert or a Jordan Love here? And the final trade candidate to move up is the new-looking Los Angeles Chargers. Now, the reason I have them so far down here is because they seem confident in Tyrod Taylor carrying this team to the playoffs, and they do have a very promising team. So I think they could beef up that defensive line at pick number 6 or add more protection to Tyrod Taylor in that offense. I just don't see them being in love with any quarterback right now, and they have their guy right there. So that's why this one's least likely, but they could still try to trade up and get a quarterback ahead of another team. Now we're into the top 5 trade down candidates, and at number 1 we have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are in perfect condition to trade down this draft. I mean, earlier today it was announced that they did have a FaceTime conference with Tua Tagovailoa, but I think they're gonna stick with Matthew Stafford this upcoming season and roll with him. It's not very likely that they're going to get another top 5 pick, but that is still in the window of opportunity. They also have a lot of draft picks, so I can see this being a team where they just trade back, get as many quality players and draft picks as possible in this year's draft. And also, it's very unlikely for a cornerback to go top 3, and if both Chase Young and either Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, any of that combination is off the board, I basically say they just trade back and to a 6 or 5, 6, 7, and then take a Kuda there. My second trade back team is the New York Giants. They sit currently at number 4, and they could take a player like an offensive lineman, or as I've been hearing, they're very high on Isaiah Simmons coming out of Clemson. But I don't see them sitting here at 4 if they're still quarterback hungry teams. I see them getting more draft picks and draft capital to keep building this very young team and possibly just make a run at it either next year or 2 years down the line once they see Dallas or the Eagles start to decline, if that happens in the coming years. My third trade down candidate here is the Arizona Cardinals. With Arizona, they did lose a couple draft picks, nothing major in the Hopkins trade, so I really like what they did there. But also, they have, I don't want to say they have a lot of holes. Their offensive line needs a lot of help, but I could see them trading back and fixing that option. So if they just wanted to get a couple more draft picks, obviously there's going to be no high-end quarterbacks here where a lot of teams are going to be trading up for that player. But if the Saints do happen to fall in love with a player like Jordan Love or Justin Herbert, this would be a perfect spot for them to trade into to get them. My fourth trade down candidate is the new-looking Atlanta Falcons. Honestly, I'm okay with their jerseys. I like their all-white ones. Their red ones are good, but I'm not a fan of their black jerseys. But that's not what we're talking about. I have them trading down here and getting a linebacker. Obviously, there's players like Patrick Queen. I want to say Kenneth Murray is in this draft as well. But I just don't see them being early for like mid first rounders where they sit at about 15 or 16. I see them trading back to like the Saints spot at 24 and taking a player like that there. They could also go cornerback in this draft. And there's a few big names there that will be still available at pick 24, or if they do happen to stay at 16. And my final trade down candidate for this list is the New England Patriots. They're a team that doesn't really like to trade up a lot. They like to stockpile on draft picks and build their team that way. They didn't splurge at all on free agency. They actually did a lot of under-the-radar, probably special teams player signings, and they just lost a lot of players. So they're going to want to build up that team again and get as many draft picks as possible. And I don't think New England is a team that will trade up and give up a lot to go get a quarterback if they're not feeling comfortable with him. Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft know what they're doing in that system, and they'll make the right decision here at, I think it's pick 23 or 24 they have. Now we have the 3 teams that I could see trading out of the first round, and at the first one we have the Seattle Seahawks. I just don't see a player that is eye-glaring or eye-popping that would fit Seattle. Maybe a late edge rusher could fall there, or possibly a cornerback, but outside of that, I don't see anyone like that would detract Seattle's interest. And I'm gonna make this prediction: they're gonna bring back Jadeveon Clowney. Russell Wilson really wants him back to go for another run, and a lot of players have expressed interest of Clowney coming back. So I think he'll come back on a cheap, not a cheap, but a 1-year insurance deal. The second candidate I have here is actually going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I understand they have 2 first-round picks, but this one is going to specifically focus on their 31st pick. I think with the 13th pick, they're probably going to go after a wide receiver option. But at 31, they could go a number of routes here. They could go safety or cornerback, but in all honesty, I just see them having more value trading out of this spot and getting more draft picks. And my final trade back candidate is the Kansas City Chiefs, sitting at number 32 here. Kansas City Chiefs are a very solid team. They did what they had to in the offseason, bringing back Chris Jones on the franchise tag, and they know they have that Patrick Mahomes extension lingering, so I feel like they'll be better off just getting draft picks and getting younger and finding replacements for those players that you might not be able to bring back with that Patrick Mahomes deal. But I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate the tremendous support I'm getting from you guys in the community, and I will also be hosting a draft party the day of the draft. I will be streaming it here on YouTube. I will basically be showing you guys the draft and just going through every pick, and you guys will be able to see my live reactions. I'm still working out the kinks and everything and trying to figure out how all I want to do it. Once again, thank you all for watching. Continue BooLin playing out.